Duh. I wasn't supposed to feel anything for them. Not after everything I'd lived through. Not after the walls I'd built around my heart. But the moment their hand brushed mine, just lightly, almost by accident, something inside me shifted. It was soft, quiet, dangerously real. And in that single breath, I realized I was standing at the edge of a feeling I wasn't prepared for. I tried to step back. I really did. But the way they looked at me, like they saw every hidden part of me, I'd spent years trying to bury, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. What happened in the next few minutes? No one would believe it unless they felt it themselves. Stay with me. Let me take you through the moment that changed everything. I didn't expect love to find me the way it did. It didn't arrive with fireworks or grand declarations. It came quietly, like the soft glow of sunrise, slowly touching everything in my life until I could no longer pretend I didn't feel it. The first time I saw them, I felt something shift inside me. Something calm yet powerful, like a tide I couldn't stop even if I tried. There was a warmth in their eyes, a gentleness in the way they spoke, as if the world slowed down just for them. And somehow, I found myself slowing down too. I kept telling myself it was nothing, just admiration, just a passing moment. But every time they smiled, every time they laughed, every time they looked at me with that quiet understanding, I felt my heart move closer. Days passed. Moments became memories. And each memory pulled me deeper into a feeling I never asked for but couldn't escape. One evening, when the world felt unusually still, we stood together beneath the fading light. Neither of us said much, but something in the silence spoke louder than words ever could. Their hand brushed mine. Accidentally, maybe, or maybe on purpose. But that small touch sent a warmth through me I couldn't describe. I looked at them, really looked, and suddenly everything felt clear. I don't know when it happened. I whispered, but you've become the part of my day I look forward to. The voice I want to hear, the person I can't stop thinking about. They stepped closer, their eyes softening, their breath unsteady. And you? They said. You're the one I didn't know I was waiting for. In that moment, the world felt simple. No confusion. No distance. No fear. Just two hearts finally finding the courage to speak what they'd been feeling all along. The space between us disappeared, and for the first time, I understood what it meant for a moment to feel perfect. Not because it was grand or dramatic, but because it was true. And from that day on, everything changed. I didn't know what would come after that moment. I only knew that something inside us had already shifted, and there was no way to go back to pretending we didn't feel it. In the days that followed, everything felt different. Even the simplest things. Walking side by side, sharing a quiet meal, exchanging a glance across a room, held a new kind of meaning. It was as if every ordinary moment had been painted with a softer, warmer color. Sometimes, they would catch me staring, and instead of looking away in embarrassment, I found myself smiling. They would shake their head lightly, almost shyly, like they were trying to hide how much it meant to them. But I saw it, every time. The way their eyes softened. The way their whole face changed when they looked at me. One evening, we found ourselves sitting together on a small bench near the edge of the city. The air was cool, the sky turning a deep shade of gold. People passed by without noticing us, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hidden from the world yet completely seen by one person. I never thought I'd feel this again, they said quietly, their voice almost too soft for the wind to carry. I had convinced myself that certain things weren't meant for me anymore. I turned toward them, my heartbeat slow and steady. What things? They hesitated, not out of doubt, but because the truth was heavy, delicate. Hope, they whispered. Connection, a place to rest my heart. For a moment, the world held its breath. I reached out, not with certainty, but with sincerity, and rested my hand on theirs. Their fingers tightened around mine, gently but with a meaning I couldn't ignore. You deserve all of that, I said. And I don't know where this path leads, or how messy it might get. But I do know this, whatever it is that brought us together, I don't want to walk away from it. They turned toward me, and the look in their eyes was something I'll never forget. Soft, startled, grateful, and just a little scared. The kind of look someone gives when their heart is finally waking up again. Then don't, they said. The night settled around us, calm and quiet. Streetlights flickered to life, casting a gentle glow on their face. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something rare. Something steady and real. Not excitement. Not infatuation. Something deeper. A beginning. I didn't know how to explain what was happening inside me. It felt like my heart had been silent for far too long, and suddenly, just by standing there with you, it began to beat as if it finally remembered its purpose. There was a tenderness in the air that I hadn't felt in years. Something soft, something patient. Something I didn't know I was starving for until that moment. You stepped closer, not rushing, not pushing, just allowing space for whatever this was to breathe. I could feel the warmth from your body even before you touched me. And somehow that simple closeness made the room feel smaller, the world quieter. Like everything outside had paused so that we could finally speak the truth we'd been circling around. I looked at you, trying to hide the trembling in my hands, but you noticed. You always notice. And instead of pulling away, you held my gaze, steady and calm, like you were telling me without words, "You're safe. I'm right here." The truth is, I had forgotten what it meant to be seen. Not just looked at, but seen. To have someone read the emotions I tried to bury, to understand the cracks in my voice, the hesitation in my steps. You made me feel understood without me having to explain a single thing. And then you said my name, softly, in a way that made it sound different, like it carried meaning, like it mattered. I felt something inside me unfold, slow, careful, delicate, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally allowed myself to exhale. You reached for my hand, gently, almost asking for permission with your fingertips. When our hands finally touched, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't rushed. It was warm. It was human. It was real. And in that moment, that small, simple gesture felt more intimate than anything I'd felt in a very long time. My heart knew it before my mind dared to admit it. I didn't want to pull away. I wanted to stay. I wanted to feel the way your thumb brushed over the back of my hand, slow and thoughtful. Like you were memorizing the moment. You leaned in just a little, not enough to overwhelm me, but enough to let me feel the quiet sincerity between us. Your voice was barely above a whisper when you said, "You don't have to pretend with me." Those words, they melted something inside me, something I didn't even know was frozen. I felt my voice catch as I answered you, barely able to steady myself. "I'm not pretending. Not right now. Not with you." You smiled, small and soft, the kind of smile that feels like it's meant for only one person. And suddenly the room felt warmer. My chest felt lighter, and every part of me felt drawn to you in a way I couldn't resist, even if I tried. There was no chaos in that moment. No confusion. Just two people standing close enough for their hearts to finally speak the truth they'd been holding back. And the truth was simple. Being near you felt like coming home after years of wandering. I don't know when it happened. The exact second when your presence shifted from something familiar to something that stirred a quiet achy inside me. But standing there with you, I felt it again, stronger, clearer. It was in the way you looked at me, as if you were tracing the edges of my soul without even lifting a finger. For a moment, neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. There was something in the silence, something soft, something patient, that wrapped around us like a gentle warmth. And in that warmth, I felt myself letting go of all the walls I had built, all the careful distance I thought I needed. You stepped closer. Slowly, thoughtfully. Each inch you moved felt like a question. And somehow my heart kept answering with a quiet yes, even before I could process anything else. When your eyes met mine again, something inside me tightened. Not in fear, but in the kind of vulnerability that comes only when you care more than you plan to. Your gaze wasn't intense or demanding. It was tender, steady, almost reverent. As if you were looking at a story you wanted to read slowly, without skipping a single line. You whispered my name, and I swear I felt it travel through every part of me. It wasn't just a word, it was a feeling. A pull. A reminder that I was standing with someone who saw me, not as someone I used to be, not for the mistakes or the fears, but for the person I had become. I didn't realize a tear had fallen until you gently brushed it away with your thumb. The touch was barely there, but it was enough to unravel me. Enough to make me inhale sharply, because no one had touched me with that kind of gentleness in such a long time. You didn't ask why I was emotional. You didn't rush to steal the moment with words. You just stayed there, close enough for your warmth to reach me, close enough for me to hear the quiet, steady rhythm of your breathing, and for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. Safe to feel. Safe to hope. Safe to want something more. My voice trembled when I finally spoke. I'm not used to this, I admitted quietly, almost ashamed of how exposed I felt. You squeezed my hand, a soft, reassuring pressure. You don't have to be, you murmured. Just be here. With me. There was something unbelievably intimate about the way you said it. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the sincerity behind them. Like you weren't asking for anything more than my presence, my honesty, my heart, whatever pieces of it I was willing to share. I didn't realize how close we had drifted until I felt your breath brush lightly against my cheek. It sent a warm shiver through me, gentle but impossible to ignore. I closed my eyes for a moment, not to escape, but to feel everything more clearly. The nearness, the softness, the quiet electricity that hummed between us. And when I opened my eyes again, you were still there, looking at me as if the whole world could fall apart, and you still wouldn't look away. I felt something inside me melt, slowly, deeply, like my heart was finally thawing from a winter I thought would never end. You make it too easy to fall, I whispered, not even realizing I had said it aloud. A soft smile tugged at your lips. Then fall, you said, your voice low, warm, steady. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. In that moment, the distance between us felt like the smallest, most fragile thing in the world. All it would take was one breath, one heartbeat, one brave step, and the entire shape of my life could change. And I didn't feel afraid of that anymore. Not with you standing in front of me. Not with that look in your eyes. Not with the quiet promise lingering softly in the air between us. I felt the air shift around us, almost as if the room itself sensed how fragile this moment was. It was strange, how something so quiet could feel so powerful. How standing so close to you could make my whole body react in ways I couldn't control. My heartbeat wasn't just faster, it felt louder, like it was trying to speak for me when my voice wouldn't. You didn't rush me. You didn't push. You were just there, steady as a heartbeat, warm as a soft evening breeze. And somehow that steadiness made everything inside me loosen, made emotions I'd locked away for years rise to the surface, as if they'd been waiting for someone like you to open the door. Your fingers brushed against mine again, barely touching, but it sent a warmth spreading through me so gently I almost shivered. You seemed to notice, because your eyes softened even more, as if my reactions meant something to you. As if they mattered. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, you whispered. You're not, I breathed out. You're doing the opposite. You tilted your head slightly, studying me, almost like you were reading every silent thought crossing my mind. And I let you. I didn't hide. The walls I used to keep around my heart felt thinner than ever, like one kind word from you could break them completely. Not in a painful way, but in a freeing way. I swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how close you were. I could see the tiny flecks of light in your eyes. I could feel the calm rhythm of your breathing. I could sense the quiet care in the way you held your posture, giving me space even as your presence pulled me closer. My voice cracked when I finally spoke. I didn't think I would feel something like this again. Your thumb gently traced the side of my hand, a small gesture but filled with so much tenderness it almost made my knees weaken. You deserve to feel, you said softly. You deserve warmth. You deserve someone who listens, someone who sees you. My breath hitched. It had been so long since anyone spoke to me like that, with honesty, with kindness, with no expectations hidden behind the words. A single tear slid down my cheek before I even noticed it forming. You reached up slowly, slow enough for me to pull back if I wanted to. But I didn't. Your fingers touched my skin with the kind of gentleness that made my whole chest tighten. You wiped the tear away as if it mattered to you. As if I mattered to you. I felt something inside me open, wide and vulnerable. I'm scared, I admitted quietly, barely able to force the words out. Your hand stayed on my cheek, warm and steady. So am I, you whispered, but I'm here, with you. We can be scared together. Something about the way you said, with you, made my breath falter. It was the kind of intimacy that wasn't loud or dramatic. It was soft, slow, meant to be felt deeply rather than understood quickly. The world around us grew small. It felt like there were only two heartbeats in the room, yours and mine, echoing in the quiet space between us. I took a tiny step closer, almost without realizing it. Our hands fit together instinctively, like they had been waiting for this moment longer than either of us had admitted. Your touch was warm, steady, full of a patience that made me feel safe enough to lean into you just a little. You looked at me like I was something fragile but worth holding. Something you didn't want to break. I don't want this moment to end, I whispered. It doesn't have to. You replied, your voice barely more than a breath, not if you stay. The softness of your voice, the steadiness of your hand, the warmth in your eyes, it all wrapped around me like a quiet promise. A promise I hadn't expected. A promise I didn't know how much I needed. I felt my forehead rest against yours, gently, naturally, as if our bodies found the distance they were comfortable with without needing permission. Your breath mingled with mine, warm and slow, creating a closeness that made my chest tighten in the sweetest, most overwhelming way. There was no hurry, no pressure, just the soft hum of something real growing in the quiet. Something tender, something honest. Something that felt like the beginning of a story neither of us had planned, but both of us suddenly wanted. I didn't know what scared me more. The way their presence pulled me in or the way I didn't want to pull away. Every second felt stretched, slowed down, like the entire world had stepped aside just to let this moment happen. They said my name, softly, quietly, like a confession sliding through the air. And something inside me trembled, not from fear, but from recognition, like my heart had been waiting for that voice all along. I told myself to stay calm, to act normal, to pretend I didn't feel the warmth radiating from them. But when they stepped just a little closer, close enough for me to feel their breath brush my skin, all my practiced strength fell apart. I should have turned away. I should have created distance. But then their fingers barely touched mine, just the slightest, trembling touch. And I knew everything was about to change. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't planned. It was real. Too real. And then in the quiet, in the space between two heartbeats, they whispered, "Tell me what you're feeling." I froze. Because how do you explain the kind of feeling that doesn't start in your heart, but in your soul? I didn't answer. I couldn't. But they didn't rush me. They didn't demand anything. They just waited, patient, warm, and impossibly close. And that's when I realized, sometimes the most intimate moments aren't loud or wild. Sometimes they're just two people standing inches apart, fighting a truth they can't hide anymore. If you think this is intense, wait until you hear what happened next. I could feel my heartbeat echoing in my ears, louder than the quiet hum of the room around us. Every time our eyes met, it was like the world paused, shrinking until nothing existed except us. There was a strange kind of courage in the way you looked at me. Soft, steady, patient, as if you were waiting for me to realize what I had been feeling all along. I wanted to speak, to say everything bottled up inside me for months, maybe years. But the words caught in my throat. I realized that sometimes, the heart understands things the mind can't yet form into sentences. Sometimes, the way someone makes you feel, seen, understood, cherished, is louder than any words could ever be. You reached for my hand again, and this time I didn't hesitate. Our fingers intertwined as naturally as if they were always meant to be together. The warmth of your touch spread through me, igniting a tenderness I hadn't allowed myself to feel in so long. I realized then that this was not just attraction. This was connection. Something deeper. Something fragile and precious. I don't know why it took me so long to see you like this. I whispered. My voice trembled, but the tremble didn't weaken me. It made the moment feel real. I didn't know I could feel this way again. I didn't know it would be with you. You smiled softly, a gentle, knowing smile, and leaned just slightly closer. Maybe it's because you were waiting for the right moment. You said, your voice low and tender. Or maybe we just didn't realize it until now, but it's here. And it's real. And that's what matters. Something inside me broke open. The walls I'd built to protect my heart weren't shattered. They were gently folded away, removed carefully so that this new, soft, overwhelming feeling could take their place. I wanted to stay in that space forever, just feeling you close, feeling the quiet intimacy that needed no labels, no explanations, just presence. I rested my head lightly against your shoulder, just for a moment, and the world fell away. Every worry, every fear, every doubt disappeared because for the first time in a long time, I felt safe to simply be and to simply feel. You held me there, steady and silent, and the weight of that quiet, unspoken understanding was heavier than anything else in the world. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was intimacy in its purest form, the kind that seeps into your soul without permission, the kind that lingers long after the moment has passed. And I knew, in that very instant, that whatever came next, whatever the future held, I didn't want to face it alone. Because you had become my safe place, my quiet, my warmth. The one I didn't know I'd been searching for until I found you. We stayed like that for a while, neither of us speaking, yet saying everything through the warmth of our closeness. It was strange how silence could feel so full, so alive. Every small movement, every subtle glance, every shallow breath between us carried more meaning than any conversation ever could. I finally lifted my head and looked at you. Your eyes, soft yet intense, held a storm of emotions I couldn't name. They weren't just looking at me. They were seeing me. Every hidden fear, every quiet hope, every fragment of my heart that I had kept locked away. And in that look, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. I've spent so long pretending I didn't need this, pretending I could protect myself from everything. I admitted, my voice breaking just slightly, but I can't anymore. Not with you. You make me feel like I can, like I'm allowed to feel everything I've been denying. You reached up, brushing a stray lock of hair from my face, your fingertips lingering for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. It's okay to feel, you said softly. You're allowed to feel. You don't have to hide anything from me. Not anymore. Something inside me loosened, a tension I didn't even realize I was carrying for years. I leaned into your hand, letting your touch guide me. It was a delicate surrender. One that didn't feel like giving in, but like finally returning home after wandering far too long. I don't want to lose this moment. I whispered, almost to myself. I don't want to lose you. You won't, you replied, and the certainty in your voice made my heart ache with a strange, sweet intensity. I'm not going anywhere. Not now, not ever if you don't want me to. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the quiet intimacy wrap around us like a gentle blanket. Every worry, every shadow of doubt seemed to dissolve in that space between us. And for the first time, I allowed myself to imagine a future, one where this closeness, this warmth, wasn't fleeting or forbidden, but real, steady, ours. When I opened my eyes again, you were still there, close enough to feel the heat radiating from your body, steady enough to feel like nothing in the world could touch us if we didn't let it. I reached for your hand again, this time with a quiet confidence, letting our fingers weave together as if they belonged that way forever. I think I've been waiting for you without even knowing it. I murmured. Every part of me that was silent, every part of me that was cautious, it all wanted you. Your smile was soft, tender, and just a little vulnerable. And I've been waiting for you too, you confessed. In ways I didn't even understand until now. And there, in that quiet room, in that fragile, intimate space between breaths and heartbeats, we didn't need words anymore. Every look, every touch, every silent understanding said what words could never capture. It was more than attraction, more than desire. It was connection. The kind that leaves a mark on your soul, the kind that changes everything without a single grand gesture, the kind that makes ordinary moments feel sacred. And in that stillness, I realized something I couldn't ignore. No matter what came next, no matter how uncertain the world outside that room might be, I would always remember this moment. The moment I let myself feel, truly and completely, for you. The moment I realized that sometimes, the most intimate connections aren't loud or obvious. They are quiet, patient, and devastatingly real.